We have a relatively small update this week in DC Dark Legion, but I think it's a rather impactful one. So we're going to go through a couple of the things that are going to be happening with the update. And the first thing I want to mention is obviously there were a few bug fixes. You can read those yourself in your spare time. Not really too much being done there. But the two main things I want to talk about are the Meera tag synergy that's been added and Gotham War. So we'll start with Meera and let's go over to her character screen so that we can talk about this one. So the big update here is they have added back the Justice League tag synergy for Meera. If you recall, if you were a landscape player, or I believe also early in the portrait mode beta of the game last year, Meera had the Justice League tag. And that made her a little bit more compelling for some of those early free to play lineups, or even for spenders early on in the game, just because you can get her stars up fairly quickly. She made for an interesting choice if you did not have access to Green Lantern. And I think the addition of this tag synergy back to her kit is going to make a lot of free to play players very happy. And I think a lot of folks who like to build the Justice League team and don't have a well built Green Lantern, this is going to be really helpful for you. Now, do I think this impacts her ranking on the tier list that I've been putting out, or anyone else's tier list for that matter? I don't think it should. And, I think it obviously gives her a little bit of future proofing, because we've talked about her kit in the past and how it's not underwhelming at all. She's like one of the best pure healers in the game. She just offers nothing else for her kit. Like, she's just a healer and that's it. Some of the other healers just have these, not necessarily gimmicks, but things that make their kits unique. So you have like Raven, who can pull someone back off of the front line, peel some damage off of them, get them healed back up, and then they run back up and they're able to resume tanking or off tanking. This is incredibly helpful in game modes like PvP, where you might have someone getting targeted down really quickly. She can jump in and peel them out, and it in some cases can win the game for you. You have champions like Green Lantern, who can do a stun and provide shields. We have Crypto, obviously, who is just added into the game, who has a stun or a disrupt and just has a ton of different ways in his kit to heal. He has the ability where he can run over to a champion, give them a burst of healing, and provide a shield for them. So there's just a lot of healers that are coming into the game. Starfire, obviously, especially with her unique legacy piece. These champions are able to do much more than just a straight heal. And so I think over time, what you're going to see as people are able to acquire those other healers and build them up is they're going to overtake her for raw healing. And if they're able to do that, in addition to their other kit synergies, it's just going to suppress her in the rankings. And really, I think we're already at that point. A lot of us who've been playing the game for half a year now are feeling the effects of just having healers that can do more than what Meera is capable of. And we had that Wonder Woman Ascension where she goes from legendary to mythic, and you take her from 5 red stars to 5 purple stars. And I think that's where you're going to start seeing some of those differences, where a champion is going to become much better than Meera is at the purple star range. But I've been doing a little bit of testing this morning already with Green Lantern versus Meera, like having them both healing in the same team, for example, or trying to use the exact same comp but switching them out as healers. And I have a 4 blue star Green Lantern, very similar gear, not really well geared at all. I think Meera has Cocoon Gun and Green Lantern has the flute. So fairly comparable, I think, in terms of like the gear that I have on them. And Green Lantern is able to out heal Meera. Now, I know that's just like a very preliminary testing. And honestly, I'm sure there's going to be mixed results. People who are doing testing, specifically what I was testing is like a Justice League lineup. So you can do that in the Light of the League training simulator and other areas if you want to. I think it's a solid change, and I think that Meera is a decent champion. Like, she's a great champion to build early on in your roster, and like I've never shied away from that recommendation. She's one of the three best legendary champions alongside Green Arrow and Wonder Woman. And I think she's a reasonable candidate for a mythic ascension in the coming months. Like as soon as there's an opportunity for them to do a feature for the Atlanteans and we get a few more of those, we will certainly see Meera ascend to Mythic whenever those events come around. I've seen a lot of people who say that Meera is S tier, and I just don't see the vision. Again, I think I've always been of the mind that if a champion is S tier at one thing or in one game mode, that doesn't make them S tier in general. It just means that they're worth consideration in that specific game mode or for that specific thing. And again, Meera is a great champion for your roster. You're not going to lose sleep over adding a little bit of force investment into Meera, especially her healing talents. But I don't see this as being hugely impactful for late game players. The one thing I will say here that's exciting for me is they seem to be willing to add some of these tag synergies back. We used to have a ton of tag synergies for each champion, and they meant nothing. They're kind of revamping the system. They've made it to where the tag synergies that made it through actually have meaning to them and they're quite impactful. And I think they're trying to be careful not to add too many tag synergies to these champions and create power creep or any sort of like crazy imbalances. But again, happy to see the Justice League tag on Meera. And let's jump over and talk a little bit about Gotham War. You can see that we have 7 teams qualified for Gotham War on server 204. Super excited about the event. I may end up missing most of it due to some work commitments, but certainly excited for our team to get in there and see if we can win again. We've won the last 2 times, but the new updates for Gotham War are actually, I should say Battle for Gotham, are very advantageous to smaller leagues. And I think we're going to see a lot of situations where the underdogs win, or at least they're able to play spoiler to the higher level leagues in this game mode. We're going to talk about each of the changes that they've made and kind of what the preliminary, like what my thoughts are on the impact, and we'll go through those line item. So the first big change is that they have removed all of the all nut mechanics, which was kind of the energy generation machine for your teams. And they have replaced those with Gotham Plazas. So the Gotham Plaza, each Gotham Plaza will increase energy gathering speed by 25% for all league members, and it's stackable with other energy gaining bonuses. So instead of kind of the all nut mechanics doing the energy gathering for you, you're going to get a bunch more opportunities to get energy gathering buffs for your teams. And so you basically have to go out there and get energy for yourself as an individual. And those buffs are going to be more difficult to get, the ones that you're able to get by obtaining the energy. But they're going to make it kind of easier for you to go out and get it. And the more Gotham Plazas that you have, the more that bonus is going to stack for you. The other thing is they've made the energy production from Gotham Processing much higher. So these are things that will kind of pop up around the outskirts of the map, and you'll be able to visit them on a solo campaign, basically. It's going to grant 40 energy per second, and then it'll disappear once it is depleted. Now, the other thing that you'll be able to do to gather energy is use these remote squads. So you can send your squads out to visit those, and you'll be able to gather a decent amount of energy and personal points for doing that as well. So these are things that I think were being underutilized. People weren't really paying attention to that. They were off busy trying to fight the battle like at Gotham and the surrounding units. So I think what you're going to see is some change in strategy where people are trying to take the armories, the armories in the Gotham Plaza, and go out and get some of those personal points and some energy, and then they come back to take the fight to Gotham City Hall. So I'm interested to see the interplay there, but it's certainly going to completely turn any strategy that you have for your league on its head, I think. Obviously it's a war of attrition, so the more good players that you have who are able to stay for the full duration or for as long as possible in the match, the better chance you have of winning. So I think there's still going to be a majority of the biggest like whale leagues are going to be winning the battle for Gotham. But I think it's not just going to be a niche thing. I think you're start to see some coalescence around some strategies where multiple leagues are working together to take somebody down, or just in general, I think these fights are going to be much, much longer. And one of the other reasons for that we'll talk about now. So they've changed the Gotham City Hall garrison rules. So basically, each vehicle battle that is lost at Gotham City Hall is going to reduce the garrison slots by 1. And then the garrison slots will reset whenever control changes hands. So if you, I think it's 5, maybe it's 3. Comment down below and let me know. It's been a while since I've done Gotham, Battle for Gotham. But basically, when you lose a vehicle battle at Gotham City Hall, that slot is going to go away. Nobody will be able to reinforce it. So whatever squads that are there to begin with, it seems those are the squads that you have to defend Gotham City Hall. And whenever they're gone, someone else is going to be able to come in and take over. It appears you'll have to let that team take over Gotham City Hall, and then you'll have to basically set them, or knock all their rosters out, and then you can come back in and take over again. So what it's going to mean is that there will be several leagues who weren't able to score a lot of points in the past, who are going to be getting some time sitting in Gotham City Hall, because eventually, if you're very aggressive, if you take Gotham City Hall and then you get set, and then you send another group of ships out to try to take Gotham City Hall again, eventually your best players are not going to have roster space to send more attacks to Gotham City Hall. And then you may be a sitting duck for a little while. Maybe you're off fishing for some extra energy so you can do another attack. Like it creates a lot more strategy that's going to have to be done around the match. So like from a competitive balance standpoint, these changes do make some sense. They're trying to kind of, I don't want to say pigeonhole, but they're trying to like force you into specific silos or lanes in order to give some of the other leagues that are participating a fighting chance. And I think as a sort of offset to some of these changes that they've made to how Gotham City Hall garrisoning works and the energy gathering and that sort of thing, the peak performance skill that you're able to get from gathering energy and personal points is going to be much higher. They haven't said exactly how much it is, I don't think, but it's going to be much higher than it was before. So you can expect that if you're able to get that bonus for your teams, you're going to be able to do a ton more damage, and you'll want to make sure that you have that peak performance buff on before you go to try to take Gotham City Hall. Now, the other aspect to this thing is going to be your Gotham Armories. So kind of the third major building for the game mode now. And what it's going to do is allow your league management, so your R5s and your R5 or your R4s, to go in and activate or deactivate the laser attacks. And the Gotham Armory, we can read the description here. It's going to fire a laser at the defenders of Gotham City Hall every 10 seconds, and it reduces stamina. So the more squads that you have stationed at Gotham Armory, and the more Gotham Armories you have, the more you're able to reduce the stamina of the teams that are sitting at Gotham City Hall. And so if you own Gotham City Hall, it's going to greatly benefit you to own all the Gotham Armories to prevent anyone from coming at you. If you own Gotham City Hall and you lose all those armories, it's going to be much easier for them to bring you down. So there's going to be a lot of strategy around putting your 5 best groups into Gotham City Hall and trying to protect those armories to keep anyone from being able to make a big push towards you. And obviously, if you lose Gotham City Hall, first thing you're probably going to want to do is make sure that you take over a couple of those Gotham armories, so that you can, it'll make it a lot easier for you to go into Gotham City Hall and take it back. So, I've seen some complaints, and I've questioned it myself. I hate that there was so much strategy involved in all the different buildings that you could take in Gotham City Hall, especially with it being a 3-hour event. I hated that they've continued to remove all these buildings, and I don't necessarily know that I like the removal of all-nut mechanics. We'll see how some of the other changes balance that out. It's kind of hard, I would say, for Fun Plus to test this, given that it's a 3-hour event. So this is, I guess, this next Gotham War is going to be our testing for how these changes work. So let me know in the comments below if you're watching this video after Gotham War, or if you watch this video and then you go do your Gotham War and you get some results, regardless of whether you're happy with them. I want to hear from you on whether you feel like this is a good change, what differences you've seen from the last time through. So let me know that. Again, a pretty short or small update this week. We do expect, I would say, to get a fairly substantial update the next time through, maybe within the next couple of weeks. There has not been an announcement yet on who the newest Bleed champion is going to be for the beta servers. So be on the lookout for something there. I would say it's probably going to be sometime early next week before we know that. So there seems to be a little bit of a delay from what we would typically see. Here we have Ra's al Ghul, who has about 4 days left on his Bleed. So technically, we're at a point where typically you would see the Bleed, a new champion introduced to the Bleed when your current Bleed champion is around 14 days or so. And so we haven't quite hit that point with Talia. So I'm definitely curious to see if we get a new champion just show up in the game on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, or if we have to wait a few extra days. It may end up being probably Wednesday or Thursday of next week before we get that, or even further down the road. So whenever it does happen, I'll be there to cover it. If you haven't already done so, consider subscribing to the channel. It definitely helps with the algorithm, and you'll also get notified anytime I release new DC Dark Legion content. And if not, I'll see you in the next video.